As a veterinarian, don't you love it when clients ask you this question? Can't you just give him a shot, doc? The fact is, we all have a social style, how we interact with others, and a cognitive style, how we process and perceive information. The cognitive style, how we process and perceive information, is the most important one in the exam room setting because clients must be able to understand and process what we're telling them. So that's really where the rubber meets the road. As veterinarians, we routinely adapt the treatment plan to meet the needs of the patient. But unfortunately, we rarely change the communication plan to meet the needs of the client, and that's where we get into so much trouble. There are 4 cognitive styles that I've identified in my book, Exam Room Communication for Veterinarians. The hawk, who has a tried and true, results-oriented, step-by-step approach to life. They are logical and mathematical. They want data and facts. The owl, who is skeptical, independent, and future problem-solving. They are abstract and intuitive, however still logical and mathematical. The dog, who's all about relationships, practical applications, and personalized service. And the kitten, who is expressive and fun and desires harmony and quality of life over all else. So in the exam room setting, let's say that you have diagnosed Mr. Dog's animal as having diabetes. And it so happens that you are Dr. Hawk. So you are logical, factual, and your natural communication style is, what's the bottom line? Mr. Dog is in the room, and his style is factual, but empathetic and relationship-oriented. So you may be able to communicate the facts with one another, but the reality is while you're communicating as Dr. Hawk from a logical viewpoint, he's looking at things wanting empathy and a relationship-oriented approach. When you tell him his dog has diabetes and it's going to need to receive insulin injections twice a day for the rest of its life, what he's going to hear you say is, your pet has an incurable disease and will need insulin for the rest of its life, but only if you want it to live. This is where we get into communication quicksand. This is where we get into trouble with clients. When that client asked, can't you just give him a shot, doc? Was he a hawk, an owl, a kitten, or a dog? Again, a hawk, practical, conservative, let's get this over with. And he's asking that because he's efficient and cost effective. How about, I want my pet to feel better as quickly as possible? That's a dog. And dogs are interaction, relationship, and supportive. How about the client that says, my pet doesn't want to be here any longer than she has to? Well, that sounds like a kitten, right? Because kittens are about individuality, growth, and ongoing relationships. Whereas the owl, what else could she need but a shot? Educate me. I want to know more. That's an owl. Organization, theory, competence. They're looking towards the future. Let's say you're faced with this client. He comes in the exam room. He's got a rope for a leash. I've had clients that I would call Spartans that have used their own belt for their dog's leash and collar, and you think about it, it's all in one. It's actually quite practical. This gentleman isn't wearing new shoes. He's not dressed fancy, and that water bottle his dog is carrying is probably the dog's toy. So he's come in for that rabies shot. Now, do you think at the outset this is the time with this particular client that you should start talking about distemper and parvo worming medication, flea control, heartworm tests? Oh, and maybe we should do blood work as a baseline? Probably not. When we recognize the certain personality types, in this case the Spartan is going to be some sort of a hawk. He's going to be very bottom line oriented. Then what we need to do is meet their needs. And then once their needs are met, once you've given that rabies shot and you've established the relationship that you're not another one of those shady salesmen that hawks think surround them everywhere they go, then you can actually talk about the other services you might provide to his dog. sometimes you will be pleasantly surprised because hawks, if they understand the cost-benefit analysis of what you're proposing, they will say yes. Using the FALE system, facts, alternatives, logic, and empathy, you can't miss. The fact is, we do not always know what kind of client we're communicating with. Maybe we're not picking up on the cues, or perhaps we've got a situation where we've got multiple client personality types all in the same room. And so if we go through this process, talk about facts, talk about alternatives, logic, and empathy, you can see that we have covered all of the personality types. Can't you just give them a shot, doc? Well, in this particular example, let's say the animal has a bad case of gastroenteritis, very upset stomach. So how do we communicate with that client? Facts. Your pet has an irritated digestive tract and is dehydrated. Alternatives. There are several possible causes. Maybe he ate something that disagreed with him. He ate too quickly. Or there's some stress or anxiety in his life. Logic. Hospitalization is the best treatment to correct dehydration and rest the stomach. And empathy. Your pet will probably feel much better by tomorrow. My goal is to have your pet happy and at home as soon as possible. These treatments are the best way to accomplish that. This is one I commonly encounter in the clinic. Does my cat really need all of those vaccines? Perhaps the client has stated that it's an outdoor cat, but mostly indoors. So they're going to question, why should I have to give those vaccines? Just stating that that's clinic policy is not likely to actually make any of the clients happy. Hawks, again, they're asking, does my cat really need all those vaccines? Because they're wanting to look at the cost-benefit ratio. Is it worth it? Is it worth the dollars? Is it worth the risk? Dogs, as a client personality style, as a cognitive style, a dog is wondering about vaccine reactions and the discomfort that all those vaccines are going to cause their cat. Does my cat really need to be poked that many times? Kittens. The kitten cognitive style is wondering if it makes any sense for their pet to get all of those shots. I mean, does it really make an impact in their pet's lifestyle? And owls are not wondering about the vaccines at all, except that they're actually interested in the science of determining a vaccine schedule. So how do we use the FALE system in this particular case? Facts. These three important vaccines, feline leukemia, feline distemper, and rabies, are generally the most important for indoor-outdoor cats. Alternatives. The vaccine protocol can always be modified for this specific cat. Logic. However, occasionally indoor-only or indoor-only cats can get into trouble and they can be bitten by another cat. The risk from a vaccine reaction is extremely low, about 1 in 1,000, about 5,000 cases. And empathy. These three vaccines are likely to make your cat feel under the weather for part of the day, but by tomorrow, he'll be back to normal. So that's how we use the FALE system and an understanding of cognitive styles to communicate with clients and avoid communication quicksand. Thank you.